Well, my name is Albie Sachs, and once upon a time I was a student at the University of Cape Town. I became politically active as a second-year law student. I took part in the Defiance of Unjust Laws campaign. I was at Kliptown when the Freedom Charter was adopted, and my whole life, in a sense, has flowed from those moments. Locked up in solitary confinement on 2 different occasions, going to exile, blown up by a bomb put in my car by security agents. Those were the hard days of relentless struggle against a vicious system of apartheid. And then came the years of exile, followed by returning, or returning in 1990 without my full arm, but with my heart filled with expectations of helping to transform South Africa, being involved in the process of writing the new South African Constitution. It was a tough, long battle. It took 6 years. We had breakdowns. Chris Hani was assassinated. People were being thrown off trains. People were dying in KZN. But we got our Constitution. And the Constitution ultimately was drafted in Parliament, our democratically elected Parliament, with more than 400 members of the National Assembly and maybe 80 in what was then the Senate, and the great majority of them, people from the communities, people who'd been in the struggle, who'd been in jail, who'd been in the union movement, from the faith organizations. It wasn't a deal done at CODESA between Mandela and de Klerk and a few business people. It was drafted by our Parliament. And Clause 25 in our Constitution emerged from that. And in a sense, the theme of the discussion is going to be about what does Section 25 of the Constitution, dealing with property, what does it mean? What does it signify? Does it prevent or does it facilitate major redistribution of land in this country? That's the big issue. And what's been astonishing for me and thrilling is to see how in the course of 18 months the whole debate has shifted. Last year was the centenary of the birth of Oliver Tambo, and one of the lectures I gave at UCT, in fact, was on the question of land. And at that time, the idea was that Section 25 requires willing seller, willing buyer. It's an obstacle to having major land redistribution in the country. We've got to get rid of it. We've got to get rid of the compensation aspects built into Section 25. And the main thrust of my presentation then was to say, read Section 25, see what it says, know the true story of how it came about, and does it allow for, does it in fact require major redistribution in this country or not on its own text. And what's been thrilling is to see that the issues debated from a purely academic issue or an issue for the political platforms, denunciations and sloganizing and so on, into a theme that's now engaging the whole country, and Parliament is traveling around the country and listening to the people on the ground, people with different attitudes, different positions, and the issue now is how can we achieve, not should we achieve, how can we achieve major land redistribution in a way that restores the land to the people who were disinherited by colonialism and by conquest and by all the laws, the migrant labor system and the taxes imposed on people, and people who couldn't carry on being farmers had to become migrant workers and so on. How can this all be challenged and changed? And not at some future imagined date, but rapidly and quickly in a meaningful kind of a way. That's the context in which I understand the discussion at UCT is going to take place. And I will have some of my own ideas to feed in to that debate in terms of understanding Section 25, what it says, what it means, the potential that it has, and ways in which it would be possible to have extensive redistribution of land without paying compensation in South Africa under the constitution as it exists, if we have a proper expropriation law passed by Parliament.